The silent observers. The observation post designated as Sentinel-7 floated in the darkness between stars, a silent guardian watching the vast expanse of space that humanity had learned to fear and respect. Captain Elena Voss stood before the massive viewing screen, her reflection ghostly against the backdrop of distant galaxies. For 3 years she had monitored the channels that carried voices from 1,000 worlds, listening to civilizations that did not know Earth existed. Tonight that silence shattered. The distress signal pierced through the quantum communication network at 0247 hours. Elena's hand froze halfway to her coffee cup as the translation algorithms worked frantically to decode the message. The voice that emerged was crystalline, musical, and utterly desperate. It spoke in galactic standard, a language humans had spent decades learning in secret. This is Ambassador Kelrus of the Zelthani Consensus. Our world burns. The Kryn swarm has breached our defenses. They consume everything. Our children, our cities, our very essence crystallizes and dies under their assault. We have petitioned the Galactic Union 17 times. They debate while we perish. If anyone with courage exists in this cold universe, please, we are dying. The coordinates are attached. We have perhaps 4 days before our species ceases to exist. Elena played the message 3 times, each repetition driving the words deeper into her consciousness. The attached data packet contained video footage that made her stomach turn. Massive biomechanical ships, thousands of them, swarming over a world of impossible beauty. Cities that seemed grown from living crystal shattered under relentless bombardment. Beings that looked like walking sculptures of pure light were consumed by dark, writhing machines that fed on their energy. She opened a priority channel to Earth Command. The face that appeared belonged to Admiral Marcus Hayes, a man whose gray hair and lined face spoke of decades bearing the weight of humanity's greatest secret. His eyes were alert despite the hour. Captain Voss. Your expression tells me this isn't a routine check-in. Elena transmitted the data without preamble. She watched Hayes' face as he reviewed the footage, saw the muscles in his jaw tighten, watched his hands curl into fists that had broken enemy combatants in 3 different wars before he rose to command. How long ago was this sent? Hayes asked quietly. Transmission lag suggests 48 hours, sir. They said they had 4 days. That means they have maybe 2 left, probably less. Hayes closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Elena saw the decision already made. I'm convening the War Council. Every flag officer, every ship captain currently in Sol system. We have 2 hours to make a choice that will change everything. Sir, if we do this, we reveal ourselves. 80 years of careful hiding, gone in an instant. I know, Captain. I also know what I see in that footage. Someone is committing genocide while bureaucrats debate procedures. Hayes leaned forward. Get me everything we have on the Zelthani, the Kryn, and Galactic Union military capabilities, and Elena, start running combat simulations. If we're doing this, we're going in prepared. The channel closed. Elena's hands moved across her console, pulling data from archives that humanity had quietly compiled over decades of watching, listening, and learning. The story they told was both fascinating and disturbing. 80 years ago, the colony ship Horizon had made humanity's first faster-than-light jump and discovered the galaxy was already crowded. Captain Sarah Mitchell had made the critical decision that shaped everything that followed. Instead of announcing humanity's presence, she had watched. She had listened. She had learned that Earth's existence would terrify every species in the Galactic Union. The reports from those early scouts were clear. Earth was what the galaxy classified as a Class 15 hazard world, the most dangerous planetary classification possible. Only 3 other worlds in the known galaxy held that rating, and none had produced intelligent life. Until humans. Earth's gravity was 3 times the galactic standard. Its oxygen-rich atmosphere was toxic to most species, causing cellular damage and accelerated aging. The atmospheric pressure would crush unprotected aliens. The planet's rotation and magnetic field exposed its surface to radiation levels that required most galactic species to wear protective gear just to survive. The oceans were acidic saltwater graveyards filled with creatures that existed solely to kill and consume. The landmasses crawled with venomous plants, aggressive predators, and diseases that could wipe out entire alien populations. And humanity had not just survived Earth. They had conquered it. They had climbed to the apex of the food chain through a combination of endurance, intelligence, and sheer stubborn refusal to die. They were persistence hunters who could chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They could adapt to environments from frozen tundra to scorching deserts. They healed rapidly, learned quickly, and worked together with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic to observers. The Galactic Union had a term for species from Deathworlds: forbidden. Contact was prohibited. If humans had announced themselves, they would have been quarantined, possibly sterilized from orbit for the safety of civilized space. So humanity had hidden, built their strength in secret, and waited. Now, someone was dying and the civilized galaxy was doing nothing. The War Council assembled in Earth Command's Central Strategy Room, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. Holographic displays showed the fleet's current positions. 95 warships, the entire United Earth Navy, represented 8 decades of preparation for a war humanity hoped would never come. Admiral Hayes stood at the center of the room, surrounded by the faces of ship captains appearing via quantum link from vessels scattered across the solar system. Some floated near Jupiter's moons. Others patrolled the asteroid belt. A few maintained positions near Mars and Venus. All waited. "You've all seen the footage," Hayes began without preamble. "The Zelthani are being exterminated by the Kryn swarm. The Galactic Union refuses to intervene, citing non-interference protocols and the time required for proper deliberation. At current rates, the Zelthani will be extinct in 48 hours. Captain James Morrison of the battlecruiser Indomitable spoke first. "Sir, if we intervene, we expose ourselves. Everything we've built, the secrecy that's kept Earth safe, it all ends." "Yes," Hayes agreed simply. Commander Yuki Tanaka of the carrier Horizon's Legacy leaned forward. "Admiral, I've reviewed the tactical data. The Kryn have over 200 capital ships in the Zelthani system. We have 95. Even with our advantages, those are terrible odds." "I'm aware," Hayes said. "I'm also aware that we have advantages the Kryn won't expect. Our ships are built to withstand Earth's gravity. Our crews can handle acceleration and maneuvers that would kill galactic standard species. Our weapons are designed around kinetic principles because we come from a world where everything is heavier, denser, more solid than galactic norms." Dr. Sarah Chin, chief xenobiologist and the foremost human expert on alien species, activated her display. "I've analyzed the Kryn based on Union databases we've accessed. They're a hive mind operating through distributed intelligence. Their tactics are efficient but predictable. They've never faced an opponent that thinks like we do, that adapts and improvises. They've certainly never faced predators." The word hung in the air. Predators. That was what humans were, what Earth had made them. Every species in the Galactic Union had evolved from prey animals, herbivores who learned to cooperate and build civilizations. Only humans had climbed up from the position of hunter, bringing with them instincts and capabilities that the galaxy found deeply unsettling. Admiral Hayes looked at each face in turn. "I won't order this mission. The cost is too high, the risk too great. But I'm offering the choice. Every captain decides for their own ship. If you want to stay hidden, to keep Earth safe behind our veil of secrecy, no one will judge you. If you want to answer that distress call, to stand between genocide and innocent lives, then prepare your ships. We launch in 6 hours." Silence stretched for 10 seconds. Then Captain Morrison straightened. "The Indomitable is ready, sir. My crew votes yes." "Horizon's Legacy stands ready," Tanaka said firmly. One by one, every captain gave the same answer. Not a single ship declined. Not one crew chose safety over action. Hayes nodded slowly, pride and sorrow mixing in his expression. "Then God help the Kryn swarm, because they're about to learn what happens when you threaten innocence while Deathworlders are watching." The fleet mobilized with practiced efficiency. Ships that had been on patrol or maintenance cycles powered their reactors to full capacity. Marines loaded into drop ships. Engineers ran final checks on weapon systems that combined human ingenuity with carefully studied alien technology. Medical bays stocked supplies, knowing casualties were inevitable. Captain Elena Voss transferred from Sentinel-7 to the fleet flagship, the Dreadnought Defiance. As she stepped onto the bridge, she felt the subtle vibration of barely restrained power. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced warship, built in secret shipyards in the Kuiper Belt. It mounted railguns that could punch through any known shield technology. Its armor was compressed titanium carbon composite that could withstand direct nuclear strikes. Its reactor was a miniature star, contained by magnetic fields that pushed the boundaries of physics. And it was one of 95 such vessels preparing to jump across 800 light-years to fight for strangers. Commander Raj Patel, chief engineer, approached her with a tablet displaying power readings. "Captain, all systems are optimal. The crew is ready. I've personally inspected every critical system." Elena nodded, taking the command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm focus. They had trained for this moment, though none had truly believed it would come. Navigation, plot jump coordinates for the Zelthani home system. Tactical, I want combat deployment patterns ready the moment we emerge. Communications, prepare a message for broadcast on all Galactic Union emergency channels. Message content, Captain? The communications officer asked. Elena smiled grimly. Tell them the Deathworlders are answering the call. Tell them humanity is done hiding. Admiral Hayes' face appeared on the main display, transmitted to every ship in the fleet. All vessels, this is Hayes. Today we make first contact with galactic civilization. We do it not with words or treaties but with action. We do it by standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. Whatever happens, know that Earth is proud of you. Know that what we do today defines not just humanity's future but our soul. All ships on my mark, jump in 3, 2, 1 mark. The universe twisted. Space folded. Reality bent around 95 human warships as they made the impossible leap across the galaxy. In 6 hours of subjective time, they crossed distances that should have taken months. When they emerged in normal space at the edge of the Zelthani system, every sensor immediately screamed warnings. The Kryn swarm was even larger than intelligence had suggested. Over 300 biomechanical vessels surrounded the Zelthani homeworld like locusts devouring a crop. The planet itself glowed with unnatural fires, its crystalline cities shattered and dying. On the bridge of the Defiance, Elena Voss stood and straightened her uniform. All ships, battle formation Delta 7. Activate all weapons systems. Prepare to announce our presence. In the depths of space, human ships spread into an attack pattern that would have been impossible for galactic standard crews. The G-forces required would have crushed them. But humans had evolved in 3 times Earth's gravity. This was natural to them. Communications, open a channel. Broadcast on all frequencies. The channel opened. Elena spoke clearly, her words carrying across space to reach both the Kryn swarm and the dying Zelthani below. This is Captain Elena Voss of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress call, Ambassador Kelris. Humanity has arrived. To the Kryn swarm, you have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw all forces from this system. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. This is your only warning. The response came quickly, a buzzing, chittering voice that spoke for a distributed intelligence spanning thousands of drones. Unknown species. You are irrelevant. This system is being processed. Withdraw or be consumed. Elena looked at her tactical officer. Time? 60 seconds elapsed, Captain. She nodded once. All ships. Show them what Deathworlders do to bullies. Fire at will. 95 human warships opened fire simultaneously, and the Kryn swarm learned that the galaxy had been hiding a nightmare in its quietest corner. The Battle of Zelthani had begun and nothing would ever be the same. When predators answer the call. The first salvo from the human fleet carved through space like the hand of an angry god. Railgun projectiles, each weighing several tons and accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the Kryn swarm in heartbeats. The kinetic energy contained in each round exceeded anything the Kryn had encountered in 3 centuries of conquering the galaxy. The lead Kryn vessel, a massive biomechanical construct that pulsed with sickly green bioluminescence, never had time to adjust its shields. The tungsten core projectile struck its forward section and transferred its momentum in a catastrophic instant. The ship didn't explode so much as simply cease to exist in any recognizable form, transformed into a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated debris. Aboard the Defiance, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Chen watched her displays with intense focus. Direct hit on target Alpha 1. Complete destruction. Targets Alpha 2 through Alpha 7 are adjusting formation. They're attempting to bring shields to bear. Captain Elena Voss stood at the center of the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, the crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements economical and precise. This was what they had trained for, what humanity had prepared for during 80 years of secret development. All ships, execute pattern Wolfpack 3. I want dispersed attack vectors. Don't let them concentrate fire on any single vessel. Commander Patel, how are our power levels? Raj Patel's voice came through clearly from engineering. Reactor at 72% capacity, Captain. We can maintain maximum combat operations for 18 hours before we need to cycle down for maintenance. Understood. Keep me informed if anything changes. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish evading a predator, except these fish were the predators. Each ship moved independently, but with a coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Years of training in Earth's punishing gravity, months of simulation exercises, and the inherent human ability to work as a pack all combined into something the Kryn had never encountered. The swarm attempted to respond with their standard overwhelming force doctrine. Hundreds of bioships moved to envelop the human vessels, their weapons charging with energy siphoned from consumed Zelthani technology. But human ships were already gone by the time the Kryn weapons fired, having accelerated at rates that should have liquefied their crews. On the bridge of the battlecruiser Indomitable, Captain James Morrison felt the familiar pressure of high-G maneuvers pressing him into his command chair. The ship pulled a 12G turn that would have killed any galactic standard species instantly. Morrison's vision tunneled slightly at the edges, but his enhanced cardiovascular system, developed through generations of evolution in Earth's harsh environment, kept him conscious and alert. "Target those cluster formations," he ordered, his voice strained but clear. "They're grouping too tightly. That makes them vulnerable." The Indomitable's main battery spoke, sending a pattern of projectiles into a formation of 20 Kryn ships attempting to coordinate their shields. The rounds struck with precision timing, each impact occurring within microseconds of the others. The overlapping shield geometries, designed to be mutually reinforcing, instead created cascading failures. 7 Kryn vessels lost containment simultaneously, their biological components rupturing and spilling into the void. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out again and again. The Kryn swarm had numbers, had size, had technology refined over centuries. But they had never faced an enemy that thought like humans did, that adapted and improvised with such speed. Commander Yuki Tanaka, aboard the carrier Horizon's Legacy, coordinated the fighter screen with the calm precision of a conductor leading an orchestra. 300 human fighters, each piloted by individuals who had trained their entire lives for this moment, wove through the battle space like angry hornets. "Gold Squadron, target those bioships attempting to break orbit. Don't let them reach the surface." "Silver Squadron, covering fire for the Defiance. She's drawing heavy attention." The fighters moved with impossible agility, their pilots enduring G-forces that would have reduced galactic standard species to paste. Each craft was tiny compared to the massive capital ships, but their weapons were no less deadly. Missiles with plasma warheads, designed to mimic stellar coroni, struck with devastating effect against Kryn bioarmor. Aboard the Defiance, Elena watched as her ship drew the attention of a significant portion of the Kryn fleet. Exactly as planned. Her ship was the most heavily armored vessel in the human fleet, designed specifically to absorb punishment while others maneuvered for killing strikes. "Shields at 40%, Lieutenant Chin reported. "Multiple hits from energy weapons. Hull integrity holding at 96%. Rotate shield frequencies. Don't let them find a resonance pattern. And return fire, focus on those heavy cruisers to our port side." The Defiance shuddered as its main batteries discharged. 6 railgun turrets, each capable of launching projectiles at velocities that made conventional explosives seem quaint, sent their deadly cargo toward the Kryn heavy cruisers. The rounds struck with pinpoint accuracy, punching through armor that had withstood decades of conventional galactic warfare. But the Kryn were learning. The hive mind that controlled the swarm was processing the battle data, adapting to human tactics. Bioships began spreading out, refusing to cluster. They started predicting human movement patterns, firing at where ships would be rather than where they were. A human destroyer, the Relentless, took a direct hit from a concentrated energy beam. Its shields collapsed and the beam carved through the ship's midsection. Atmosphere vented in a glittering cloud. The ship's reactor containment failed and it exploded in a brief, brilliant flash. "Relentless is gone," Tactical reported quietly. 270 souls. Elena felt the loss like a physical blow, but she couldn't afford to stop. "All ships, they're adapting to our movement patterns. Switch to randomized evasion protocols. And get me a firing solution on that heavy cruiser that killed Relentless." The battle had been raging for 47 minutes when the Galactic Union observers arrived. 3 ships, bearing the silver and blue colors of Union peacekeeping forces, emerged from faster-than-light travel at a safe distance from the combat zone. Aboard the lead vessel, Observer Primary Thrain of the Keleth Communion watched the battle unfold with growing horror. "This cannot be happening," he whispered, his translator rendering his words in standard. "Those ships, those tactics, nothing like this exists in our databases." His tactical analyst, a Vrix named Kelter, worked frantically at his console. "Observer Primary, I have identified the unknown vessels. According to restricted archives, these are human ships. From Earth. The forbidden Deathworld." Thrain's 3 hearts began racing. "That's impossible." The humans are supposed to be pre-contact, confined to their system. They shouldn't even have faster-than-light capability. Apparently, our intelligence was incorrect. And Observer Primary, you need to see their combat performance metrics. Kelter transferred data to the main display. They're pulling maneuvers at forces exceeding 12 standard gravities. Their weapons operate on kinetic principles with energy densities we've never recorded. And their coordination, it's like watching a single organism despite having no detectable hive-mind connection. Thrain watched as a human frigate, crippled and venting atmosphere, turned directly toward a Kryn capital ship. The human vessel accelerated on a collision course, its crew choosing certain death to eliminate an enemy. The two ships collided and both vanished in a ball of fusion fire. They're sacrificing themselves, Thrain said in disbelief. Individual ships, individual lives, thrown away without hesitation. Not thrown away, Kelter corrected quietly. Traded. That human frigate took out a ship 5 times its size. And look, the human fleet is advancing through the gap it created. Indeed, the human formation had shifted, exploiting the opening created by the relentless sacrifice. 20 ships poured through, their weapons tearing into the Kryn rear formations that had thought themselves safe. Back in the heart of the battle, Dr. Sarah Chen worked in the Defiance's medical bay, preparing for casualties they all knew were coming. Around her, medical staff checked supplies with nervous efficiency. They had trained for combat medicine, but training was different from reality. The first wounded arrived 30 minutes into the battle. A fighter pilot, his craft crippled, had managed to limp back to the Defiance before life support failed. They pulled him from the cockpit unconscious but alive, his body covered in bruises from high-G maneuvers. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, signs of decompression exposure. Sarah rattled off as her team worked. Get him stabilized. We're going to have a lot more coming. She was right. As the battle intensified, the wounded began arriving in steady streams. Burns from energy weapons that had breached cockpits. Crush injuries from failed inertial dampeners. Radiation exposure from ruptured containment fields. Sarah worked with mechanical efficiency, her hands steady even as her heart broke for each injured crew member. The tide of battle shifted at the 73-minute mark. The Kryn swarm, having lost nearly 100 ships to humanity's 95, made a tactical decision. They withdrew their forces from the planet's surface, recalling every bioship to form a defensive sphere. They intended to use their superior numbers to create an impenetrable wall of overlapping shields and weapons fire. It was a sound tactical decision against any conventional force. Against humans it was a fatal mistake. They've consolidated, Elena observed, studying the tactical display. All ships, prepare for coordinated strike pattern hammerfall. We're going to hit them with everything we have all at once. Admiral Hayes' face appeared on her display, transmitted from his flagship. Captain Voss, hammerfall will expend 70% of our remaining ammunition. If it doesn't break them, we won't have enough left for a sustained engagement. I understand, sir. But they've given us a single target. We'd be fools not to take the shot. Hayes nodded slowly. Agreed. All ships, execute hammerfall on Captain Voss's mark. Elena took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. 94 ships, thousands of crew members, billions of humans back on Earth who didn't even know this battle was happening. All depending on her next decision. All ships, target coordinates transmitted. Fire in sequence, time on target in 30 seconds. Mark. The human fleet stopped evading, stopped maneuvering, and simply turned to face the Kryn sphere. For 29 seconds they held position, absorbing fire from hundreds of enemy weapons. Shields failed on a dozen ships. Armor was breached. The destroyer Valiant broke apart under concentrated fire, adding another 300 names to the casualty list. Then, at the 30-second mark, every human ship fired simultaneously. 9,400 projectiles crossed the distance to the Kryn formation in 2.3 seconds. Each round had been precisely calculated to arrive at exactly the same instant, targeted at the same section of the Kryn defensive sphere. The combined kinetic energy exceeded the output of a medium-sized star. The Kryn shields, designed to withstand sequential fire, had no answer for this. The first rounds collapsed the shields entirely. The next 1,000 rounds tore through the outer layer of ships. The remaining projectiles punched deep into the formation's core, seeking the nerve ships that coordinated the swarm's hive mind. When the energy dissipated, the Kryn formation had a hole 15 kilometers wide carved completely through it. 42 ships were simply gone. Another 60 were crippled, drifting and powerless. Direct hit, Lieutenant Chin reported, her voice shaking slightly. Enemy formation is in disarray. They're breaking apart. Elena allowed herself a small smile. All ships advance. Break them into smaller groups and eliminate them. What followed was not so much a battle as a hunt. The Kryn swarm, its coordination shattered, its numbers depleted, tried desperately to retreat. But human ships were faster. One by one, the biomechanical vessels were run down and destroyed. Commander Morrison, aboard the battered Indomitable, led his task force in pursuit of a fleeing group of Kryn cruisers. His ship had taken heavy damage, its armor scored and melted in a dozen places, but its weapons still functioned. "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "Let's send a message to the others." The Indomitable's remaining rail guns spoke one final time, and the lead Kryn cruiser died. The remaining ships, recognizing they could not escape, turned to fight. They died anyway, but at least they died facing their enemy. 4 hours and 17 minutes after the first shot was fired, the last Kryn vessel exploded under fire from 3 human frigates. The Battle of Zelthani was over. The swarm had been destroyed, 323 ships reduced to debris and radiation. The human fleet had lost 23 vessels and suffered damage to 41 more. 4,312 humans were dead, another 1,800 wounded. But the Zelthani survived. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Defiance, staring at the planet below. Its surface still glowed with fires from the Kryn assault, but those fires would eventually burn out. The Zelthani would rebuild. They would live. Communications, open a channel to the planet. Let's introduce ourselves properly. On the surface of Zelthani Prime, Ambassador Kelris stood in the ruins of what had been the planetary capital. He was a being of living crystal, his form reflecting light in patterns that expressed emotion to those who understood his species. Right now, those patterns showed exhaustion, grief, and something that might have been hope. When the human transmission came through, he almost didn't believe it. The face on the display was strange to him, with forward-facing eyes and a mouth that showed teeth when it smiled. But the voice was kind. "Ambassador Kelris, this is Captain Elena Voss of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress call. I'm sorry we couldn't arrive sooner. The Kryn swarm has been eliminated. Your world is safe." Kelris felt his crystalline form resonate with emotions too complex to name. "You came," he said simply. "The Galactic Union refused, debated, delayed. But you came. Your species, we do not even know you, yet you came." Elena's expression softened. "Where we come from, Ambassador, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We couldn't do nothing. We're sending down medical teams and supplies. We'll help you rebuild." "Who are you?" Kelris asked. "What species risks so much for strangers?" "We're humans, Ambassador. From a planet called Earth. And we're very pleased to meet you." As human dropships descended through Zelthani's atmosphere, carrying medical supplies, engineering equipment, and thousands of volunteers ready to help rebuild a shattered world, the Galactic Union observers watched in stunned silence. Observer Primary Thrain finally found his voice. "Kelter, send a priority message to Union Central Command. Tell them the humans have revealed themselves. Tell them they fought a numerically superior force and won. And tell them." He paused, watching as human soldiers emerged from landing craft with medical supplies instead of weapons. "Tell them that everything we thought we knew about Deathworlders was wrong." In the weeks that followed, as humans worked alongside Zelthani to rebuild their world, word spread across the galaxy. The forbidden species had emerged from hiding. The Deathworlders had answered a distress call that the civilized galaxy had ignored. They had fought with ferocity that terrified observers, then showed compassion that confused them even more. Captain Elena Voss stood in the reconstructed Grand Hall of Zelthani Prime, 3 months after the battle. Ambassador Kelris stood beside her, his crystalline form now marked with veins of human-made composite where he had been injured and healed. "Your people saved us," Kelris said quietly. "Not just from the Kryn but from despair. When the Union abandoned us, we thought the galaxy had no justice, no mercy. Then you came." Elena smiled. "We came because it was right, Ambassador. Because someone needed help and we could provide it. That's all. And we could provide it. That's all." "That's everything," Kelris corrected. He gestured to the gathered assembly, thousands of Zelthani who had survived because humans chose to act. "The galaxy called you Deathworlders, spoke of you with fear. But we will tell a different story. We will tell of the day strangers crossed impossible distances to stand between us and extinction." Far away, in the halls of Galactic Union Central Command, debates raged about how to handle humanity's emergence. Some argued for containment, others for integration. A few suggested that perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy had been wrong about what it meant to come from a death world.